Hey there, in this video we'll be getting to know how information becomes news, the complete procedure of how the transformation takes place. If you were wondering about the same, then continue watching and we'll get to the root of it. So before we begin, we need to understand some basics about this industry. I've divided this industry into two parts, news agency and mass media, wherein they also have a governing body that makes sure that both operate ethically. In India, we have the Press Council of India, which is the governing body. I'll be giving you guys examples of mass media, news agencies, so you can understand better because I'm sure you would have come across this. Most of you wouldn't know about the Press Council. Every country has a Press Council. Some countries have more than one Press Council that work day and night to ensure that the mass media doesn't spread information and has the right to disapprove the news and censor it, so the masses aren't fooled by misinformation. Press Council can investigate and issue a report. It can also warn, admonish, censure, or disapprove those it finds at fault, but it has no powers to enforce nor impose any penalty on individual journalists and publications. So if we have any complaints regarding the news that is being displayed, we can always contact the Press Council. In simple words, the Press Council is the police for this industry. Now that we understand the Press Council, it's time to understand news agencies. Examples of news agencies in India are Hindustan Samachar, Press Trust of India (PTI), Samachar Bharati, United News of India. Some of the major players in the world when it comes to news agencies are Reuters, Asian News International, which is also known as ANI. You must have seen it, right? Fun fact, ANI is based in India. You can also find news agency for your country here on this page. According to Wikipedia, a news agency is an organization that gathers news reports and sells them to subscribing news organizations such as newspapers, magazines, and radio and television broadcasters. Basically, these are the people that work on ground and actually get the information. And since they have formed a network of people around the world, they get the news first. They are the source of information when anything takes place, most of the time. However, at times the mass media employees also go on ground, and that's when they claim that the news is exclusive. To achieve such wide acceptability, news agencies avoid partiality. The demonstrably correct information is their stock in trade. Imagine if the news agencies didn't do their work right, then the mass media would report the wrong information, and because of this, the trust of people will be weakened. That's precisely why the mass media industry trusts the news agencies. The news agencies in turn provide accurate information and work ethically. Otherwise, their news wouldn't sell. Once the news agencies sell the information they gathered in its original form, the mass media companies then purchase this information and sell it as news to the masses. I'm sure you're all aware of the mass media companies like Aaj Tak, The Hindu, The Times, Deccan Herald, CNN, you get the point, right? International examples, the Washington Post, the New York Times, etc. So these companies purchase the news from the news agencies and show them in their own way, which becomes their USP factor. USP means unique selling point. In India, for example, we are aware of the Republic TV and its USP factor being Arnab Goswami sir and how he conveys the news. Then we have Aaj Tak, which shows all its news in Hindi, and that becomes its USP. So in this way, the mass media industry shows us the news in a different way and cater to different audiences. Now we get a gist of what is going on behind the scenes. Let's also know a few more important things. The mass media has the power to show the news in any perspective they wish to. They can either do it in a positive manner or in a negative manner. For example, let's assume ANI reports that cat drank all the milk and left nothing for others. Mass media can report it as a hungry cat drank all the milk and left nothing for others, or they can go hardcore and be like, look at the cat finishing all the milk, and as you can see, there's nothing left for anybody. Wow, we can't believe we can do such a thing. The cat is such a bad creature for doing this. etc. etc. See what just happened? Now we must understand where the money comes from, because that's the most important factor when it comes to news, right? If the news agencies try selling fake news, the mass media wouldn't buy it. Therefore, the mass media would want original news of exactly what took place and in the most original way possible. The mass media purchases the news, and only if it is authentic and accurate. That's precisely how news agencies make money. When the mass media has the news, it can twist and turn the facts and show whatever they want, because they make money when they have TRP, which is why they tend to scream on the TV all the time and show those amazing sound effects that blast your eardrums. This gets a lot of people hooked onto the screen, and then they display ads and make money. In terms of newspapers, they make money when somebody buys the newspapers, along with the ads in the newspaper. Here, the selling point is basically how good the headline is. If it says something provocative, people are more inclined to purchase the newspaper, and they know what kind of a line would make it sell. Another thing to note here is that all newspapers have an editorial part. This is basically the heart of the newspaper. This is where the journalists put in their hard work and effort, and only the top journalists write stuff here. And this, you can say, is the most authentic part of the newspaper. It is near impossible for the editorial part of the newspaper to go wrong. No other department has any say when it comes to the editorial. That's the reason there is no advertising or hate on this page. These are some of the ways the mass media makes money. Now, the final part, paid news. Paid news is when anybody pays the mass media to write positively about them or write negatively about somebody else. According to the Press Council of India, paid news can be defined as any news or analysis appearing in any media, print and electronic, for a piece of cash or kind as a consideration. I'll be linking the PDF by the Press Council of India in the description, which you guys can go through. Now let's not make major claims here, because many people favor their respective brands and political parties which fund the mass media to publish news. We all can name the channels that report in favor of a political party or negatively about it, and can safely assume what's going on. But this brings up one of the most important factors. Who do we believe? So, what I do personally is, instead of consuming news from any of the mass media services, I go directly to the source. ANI and Reuters are huge, and they are trying to enter the mass media section. But again, since their main source of revenue remains selling news to mass media, they put up the news information as soon as they find out. This way, they remain accurate and authentic. We can consume news from these news agencies in Twitter and their websites and their applications, which are available on all platforms. Another thing that we need to consider is that once these news agencies become more popular among the people, it is possible for money to corrupt them. And we'll have to wait and watch what has to come. Apart from all that's discussed, another thing is to note that anybody with deep pockets can start off a mass media company and purchase enough power in a media company. That said, one thing we absolutely shouldn't trust is the news that's shared using social media, because if we believe it or pass it on to people, we're basically fueling a propaganda. So that's all from my side, guys. Kudos for making it so far. I'll see you in the next one. If you have any other ideas on the topic, comment it down below and I'll pin your comment for everybody to see. Like the video if you enjoyed it and share it with others to know how news is delivered to you.